Hey, g'day, Kristen Harper here. I'm a strategic sales coach that champions authentic and value-based selling. And joining me today is Stuart Little from Agency 8. Stuart, how you doing, brother? You well?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thanks, Kristen. Thanks for inviting on this. It's going to be a good one.
Now, Stuart did a wee bit of a post yesterday around sales teams, AI, LinkedIn, and we started a wee bit of a conversation. I said, I think we need to get on a call and have a bit of a chat about this because both Stu and I have been involved in working with sales teams over the years. Obviously, it's something that I do with sales teams at the moment. And we've been talking about, leveraging LinkedIn to create more opportunities. We've been talking about artificial intelligence. In my opinion, I think the whole AI discussion is obviously the words that everybody's throwing around at the moment, but this discussion is really unpacking a wee bit about what it is and how to leverage it, especially from a sales leadership and a sales team. But Stu, I guess I'll firstly start off. Do you want to tell us a wee bit about your background? I'll give it a wee bit of context to the sales teams and how this discussion, I guess, how it's going to roll a wee bit today.
Yeah, sure. And look, so my background, I've been in sales for all of my working career, business development predominantly. So that's really where I've thrived and I really love that space. Always being in that new kind of zone. But since for the last 4 years or so, I've had my own agency, and what I've been able to do is help businesses and individuals grow their success using LinkedIn as part of that strategy. So it's been, as LinkedIn has developed over the past time, and certainly during the COVID years, what we've now got is a platform which really allows you to really achieve your goals in a very different way. So that's cool. But aligned with that is the change to this kind of AI space, and we've both seen it kind of emerging and subsequently taking hold. And I think yesterday we touched on this kind of moment where we both wanted to really talk about where our observations are and how it's being used, because what I'm finding personally is that I don't know if it's been embraced fully across the board. If businesses don't have a strategy about how they want to use social media, even in its basic form, then jumping on an AI bandwagon isn't going to solve the problem. That's just another technology to consider, and it will probably
just another
be too much. Yeah. And it's great that it's out there, and it's a hugely impressive tool when you are using it in a structured way. But it's just understanding how people are doing that, because I see many examples where it just appears to be, we've got AI, use it. And I don't know if that's really the mandate that we need here.
I think let's start with LinkedIn, because obviously that's what you're doing in terms of in the roles that I've had. It's something that I've sort of morphed into. So my background I was about 10 years in the very competitive photocopier print industry. And back when I started, was literally out there knocking on doors. I didn't even know it was a thing when I first started out. And we really had to hustle to get those deals. Now, over the last 5 years and in business, I leveraged LinkedIn a hell of a lot more. Probably could be utilizing it a lot more. But when we had a conversation this morning, when we went into lockdown, I did some LinkedIn training with about 15 sales reps from CSG, which is now part of Fuji Xerox. And the first thing I asked everybody, every single sales rep that I mentored, was, are you leveraging and using LinkedIn at the moment? And the first thing they said is, I tried it once, but it didn't work. I said, you cold call, don't you? Yeah. Did you give up after one bloody cold call? No. And so what I found is a lot of them know that it's there, but they just don't leverage it because they just haven't had the training. And I see it with those larger sales teams in those very competitive industries, like in the telco, the print, the ICT, those ones, because you're basically given a list here, get out there, but there's not a lot of training, not a lot of sales training that goes in. There's not a lot of that social selling. However, where we are now, 2024, you have to be leveraging this stuff to grow your business. And in my personal opinion, I think a lot of it goes back to sales leadership and some of the sales managers and my experience within the print industry. A lot of the sales managers that I work with were all top salespeople. Generally, top salespeople are quite selfish. Not selfish in a bad way, but they are generally sort of out for themselves. So once they get into a management position, I think a lot of them really struggle to embrace, number one, new technologies, embrace sales coaching and all those other things. What are your thoughts around that, mate?
Yeah, look, I would absolutely agree that it's certainly a training thing. I mean, that's where I've been able to add value in respect of that. I think the background that I've had is business development forces you into a space where you're constantly evaluating what's coming up. Your genuine passion is your clients and understanding what you can deliver and from a value proposition, and how that's going to, how their business is changing and adapting to accommodate the stuff that you can actually work with them on. So that's great. It's not always going to be the outcome that it's your solution, but as long as you're kind of relevant for that customer and you're able to do things in a meaningful way that's going to take things forward, then you may not do something today, but it might be something that you do tomorrow. It's just about maintaining that relationship. So certainly there's that. I think that it's interesting because I see a lot of salespeople who are very motivated to and understand and see and hear the noise around what's going on, and they want to be involved in it. But they don't know how to necessarily approach the business in respect of what we need to do and how we need to change and what they would like to do to bring that to the table. It's kind of left as a leadership thing, and I don't know if necessarily the collaboration that's openly discussed in some businesses is necessarily equating to others. So what we have here is this kind of missing moment where people want to do stuff, but then they're looking to leadership and or recommending, and it's falling necessarily on deaf ears in some cases, just not as enthusiastic ears in others. So they see it as maybe more of a time thing that's going to accommodate a lot of time and thought. And also there may be this thought that your salespeople aren't marketers and marketers aren't salespeople, and what you've not got is this coming together of those two teams where there's necessarily measured on the same outcomes and monitored that way. So LinkedIn is until it's understood, is seen as an onerous task and sometimes a bit of a long-term challenge. It's changed a lot since that was a reality, and I think that now we've got a lot of smarts involved in it. To be fair, there's a lot of given it's owned by Microsoft, and we're starting to see a lot more of the AI tools coming to the table. How advanced they are at this point in time is probably debatable too, in respect of what true value they add. But having said that, at least it's starting somewhere. So you've got something which you can use to get some ideas up. We were talking about the use of ChatGPT as a way forward for helping planning and that type of thing, and a more of a case of as an ideas creation is far more logical in respect of giving you a structure and giving you a process to work to. I think our value as humans in this whole equation is that our experiences and our actual observations and how that comes to light, and where we can actually add a practical piece to it. I've no doubt that at some point in time, ChatGPT and other AI-based applications will have a significant learning and will be perhaps more advanced than we are. Who knows? Will they be able to replace what we see and how we feel as a relation to that? I don't know. And I think that's what, this is where we come to the party, because if it was all automated, we wouldn't have a role, and ultimately these things will be taken care of. So I don't
think a lot there is going to change. And I think you made a really good key point around the sales and marketing. And this is what I've always seen, even with some of New Zealand's largest companies, marketing never talks to sales, and it's about being able to marry those two, because a salesperson at the end of the day, you are marketing yourself, you are selling yourself. Marketing, selling, you're essentially doing the same thing. But a lot of people just sort of don't really perceive it that way.
Yeah, for sure. But it doesn't, that doesn't mean LinkedIn is part of that. That's a day-to-day meeting and getting together with clients at events on a day-to-day meeting. Booking your schedule out for a week to week is a similar thing. The beauty of an online platform or an online profile and in its absolute sense is that it gives you that scale. It allows you to be present in places where your clients are and where they can recommend you more freely. And I think that that's often the thing that's overlooked, is that people miss that moment where they can, they feel it's just about that when they post in that moment in time, rather than it be a collective group of information which then people can reference. And that's what certainly, now I've been in this space for a longer period of time, I'm now certainly seeing that, and I have done for a number of years, in fact, to see that investment pays off over time. So these things are what's worth bearing in mind. It's not it's not but there's a science to it. It isn't just oh, I'll get myself a LinkedIn profile and away I go, because I think that's the problem we see, right? You talked earlier about the team that were doing it and then thought it didn't work, so I'm not going to do it any further. There's a cadence that's required.
Yeah.
But it's nothing. I've never seen any platform, any CRM or any kind of internal business platform that gives back in the same way that this does. And because it travels with you for your career, it starts to really round out what's possible. So yeah, the potential.
At the end of the day, it is a tool to leverage, to create opportunities, to open up doors, to build your own profile and brand. And I think what I've seen with some of those larger sales teams is that it's not taking that long-term play. So it's not looking at it, hey, whether I stay in this role or not, because the reality is, especially in some of those sales organizations, you know, a good 80-90% of people are going to go, they're going to sort of move around. So it's about sort of being able to leverage that and building your profile on that, then being able to use that to your advantage. And I think that's where a lot of salespeople will look at it and go, yeah, don't really want to put myself out there and I want to be judged, or somebody else is going to be looking at that. And at the end of the day, nobody gives a fuck. Let's be honest.
That's absolutely true.
Sometimes we can overjudge what people are thinking about us, but the reality is people, I'm not saying they don't care, but a lot of people that are going to be looking at stuff, if you're doing stuff consistently, then you start to build trust. You start to build, people see that, like, I really like what they do. And as we're talking about this morning, you're just building that trust, you're building that sort of credibility, and they can see all those things that you're involved in. But if you're doing just sort of random stuff and fearing what people are going to think about you, and I think that's probably a big one that probably stops a lot of people, is that posting content, or that side of it.
Yeah, I think if you know the necessity to be posting daily and actually posting in the moment, like as in creating it all the time, there's lots of things that have changed there, and you know the scheduling that you can now do. This kind of thing it makes it a lot easier to plan things out, so you can be a bit more structured, and you don't need to be posting every single day if you don't want to. I mean, ultimately, that's your decision, and in many respects, this is. Your choice is your choice. I mean, you know, if you want to be here, you can be here. The opportunity when you are here is absolutely there, and no question you're going to get payback. If you don't do that, what are you going to do? This is the question I have, is like, when you're not in this space, even with a basic kind of understanding and application of what you can achieve here, what is it that you go do to get the scale, to get the connections, to get the opportunities that present themselves? Because the reality is, once you're here and you're doing it, it's the stuff that then reveals itself to you, it's mind-blowing. Especially when you start to think, we move with purpose is what it's about. And there's, you know, this talk of community is over network is really important consideration, because once, you know, all organizations and all businesses have their core network of clients, and they have good relationships with, and that's your community of people who are out recommending you in most cases because of the good work you're doing and how you're doing it. Those stories are what people want to see more of, and ultimately,
which is how
LinkedIn
we met through Glenn Marvin.
Well, I mean, you know, good God.
Through LinkedIn.
Good God, mate. It's like the connections are real, right? Like the fact is that we wouldn't be talking if it wasn't for this platform. And I could say that for a lot of different individuals all across the planet. So, you know, like, that's a cool thing. And I'm ever thankful for the opportunities that it's provided for me. And hence the reason I do what I do to help others achieve that. Because if you're, like I say, you can choose not to be here, and that's cool. But the challenge is, it's a modern world where, in real terms, the market is getting younger in respect of decision makers, and those people have grown up with technology and have, you know, these mobile devices at their fingertips all the time. And if they want credibility, they want this proof of value. And ultimately, with that in mind, understand how you're doing it. And if you're using AI to get there, great. But how are you using AI to get there, and which AI are you using?
I think let's take it back to that sales leadership. And when we were talking about it this morning, a lot of it for those sales teams always has to come from leadership. It always has to be led from leadership. And we're talking this morning around, where do you find the right type of leaders? And I think it goes back to creating that content on LinkedIn where you are targeting that ideal audience. So if I go back to, you know, the telco and the print and news as an example, in my opinion, they wouldn't be the right ones. It'll be about finding those industries where you've got those leaders that want to grow, that want to learn, but that will lead by example. And it'll be those leaders that are on LinkedIn actually doing this stuff themselves, because if they're doing it, then their teams are going to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I think that, you know, the companies you talk about have shareholders which are, you know, demanding more and more of the actual business and its performance, and ultimately these avenues are here now as a table stakes environment. I talk about that. I genuinely feel that this isn't an option. This is something which we need to be part of, and because of the value that it provides back. So when you do it correctly, then there's no question you're going to get some results, and you know, I stand by that. So it's so I'm with you. Yes, there's a difference between leaders and managers, though, right? I know you know, those we I'm sure we understand in respect of, we've both come across the different people who've had those qualities, and those that manage and want to stay, if they want to stay where they are and are not focused necessarily on those end game goals, well, that's a short-term viewpoint, in my humble opinion. And those leaders who genuinely see opportunity and want to understand more and then have to evaluate it, at least have the conversation. I mean, you know, surely it's there. Interestingly, all technology businesses are AI businesses in one way or another. They have to be talking that story, or they're largely irrelevant. And this is the piece which I find really interesting, is because even the print business that you're talking about, you know, those machines that are now doing that are incorporating elements of AI into it. It's becoming a commonplace.
And we have lost you there, buddy. Lost you there, Stu. Oh.
Things.
Mate, I lost you for about 30 seconds there. And this is what we're talking about. This is technology.
Okay.
This is what. No. It's not your fault. Things probably. So this is what happens: is when you have stuff like this with the technology where it doesn't work the way that we want it to work. But we're going to keep carrying on because this is how we roll. And I missed that last part of it, of what you're talking about there around that sales leadership. But if you wouldn't mind just sort of wrapping that up again.
Yeah, sure. So I'm just simply saying that there's managers and leaders, and leaders really need to, you know, really look at what it is they want to achieve for this year, and what technology is there to enable that. I mean, the fact is that, you know, it was really powerful. You know, a lot of businesses rely on their CRM environment, and they look at that, but it's only ever as good as the update that the salespeople can apply to it. In most cases, yeah, some are better than others, and I'm not necessarily casting the net as to everybody, but at the end of the day, what you've got with this environment on the inside LinkedIn is an online, always updated, kind of constant, and that, when it's coupled with your CRM, provides a hugely powerful environment to kind of work with. And the businesses that do that and go down that track, that's where they start to win, because they get the best of both worlds. So the opportunities are there. It's just whether or not you can afford it, you think it's worthwhile, and or you maybe want to approach it a different way. But at the very least, harness the power of your team to use that and to generate the brand awareness, because, you know, with best will in the world, a single company page posting out regularly is really largely falling on deaf ears, irrespective of the following, unless you're doing something truly out of the ordinary.
So how do we start with the sales leaders to embrace leveraging number one, technology? And I think that AI chat's got to be the next chat, because if you're not using one, then you're generally not going to use the other. Because
we shouldn't be using the other, because
I think with
you're missing
LinkedIn,
the trick.
You can't afford not to use it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like I say, it's table stakes for the modern sales environment. It has been. This isn't a new statement. I've been saying this for 3-4 years in my own business, and I came out of an organization where I absolutely knew it was going to be the way. So, you know, like, that's for me, it was clear. So, yeah, I've seen that taking place, and I declare it, obviously with COVID taking away our face-to-face, that digital space became massively important, and those that invested then are paying dividends now. It's just the way it works. But yeah, I think that if you want to get into it, just connect with the right people and follow what's going on. Be involved in the platform, because you'll start to see how it can benefit your industry, and ask the smart questions. engage with the likes of you and I who can give clarity on it.
Cool. I think this is the great end of the conversation, mate. I think the next one, let's jump more into that AI side of it. But I really appreciate your time and love your insights, mate.
All right,
I
no
think
worries.
this is something that really needs to be unpacked in a lot more detail, because as we were talking about this morning, it's about getting that cut through. It's about, as I say, about this cutting through the bullshit. I think we can tell ourselves all these reasons why we can't do certain things.
Yeah.
But it's about having that real talk and cutting through it and being able to leverage it in a way that's going to create opportunities, because that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, I know, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And it's not difficult, it's just an addition to the team. People often think that what we're out to, people who talk about these digital platforms are here to replace it. This is absolutely to enhance the relationships you currently have and grow into the new spaces you want to grow into. And that's what it enables, is that. So it's a huge addition. It allows that. What I'll say is it allows you to show your value and communicate your value consistently, and that's really challenging to do that in advertising, and do that. It needs a more realistic and, what I would say, dare I say, authentic story to actually substantiate it, and that's really where it's at for me.
And we touched on that earlier, just around that authenticity, and we talked about leveraging LinkedIn, but then there's levels that you can leverage it in. We're talking about this morning, like as I'm building the business as well, engaging with people on LinkedIn, and I'm finding different ways to do that. So it's not just sending them a message, sending them videos, sending them a whole lot of other after things that you can do, because you can just try different things out. And some of them can really hit, some of them may not, but it's all about testing things out and just seeing what works and what doesn't. And I think most of all, just having fun with it.
Yeah, I think for sure.
I think sometimes we can look at the shit and go, oh my God, I need to sort of put myself out there, and this is really hard, and I'm going to be judging it. So who gives a shit? Like, let's just have a wee bit of fun about it.
Yeah, no. Look, those are few and far between, those bad comments. But like, the beauty of it is you can take ownership of that, and you can connect with the people and find out what's going on. And if they're not your people, they're not your people, and just unfollow them. It's as simple as that.
It's okay.
You don't have to spend much time messing about here. But the thing about it too is, I'm a believer that, if you're not involved, get involved, and if you are involved and you hate it, get out. It's as simple as that. But the fact of the matter is that if you're taking the right advice and you're doing the right work.
Yo, and we've lost you again.
Ultimately the thing.
Yeah,
okay. Sorry, I lost you there again. So what I'm saying is that it's just good. So we'll leave it there, eh? So we'll come back to the subject though, because I'm sure that if there's any comments on this, it'll be interesting. But I think that we're touching on some interesting stuff here, man. I'd love to know what people are doing.
Yeah, so same here. Sure, appreciate your time, buddy.
All right.
Cool. Cheers.
Bye for now.